Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Lowe, and today we will be covering yet another topic as part of our ongoing AIOps Power Hour series. And today our topic is going to be on the power of Agentic AI and ITOM, where we'll go over our existing Agentic AI workflows that we offer as part of our product, review some of the skills that we also have available, as well as go into how you can customize our existing agentic workflows to what works best for your organization. Those are just some of the things that we'll cover today, but we'll go deeper into the general topic of agentic AI and into a lot of detail on how it works exactly. So hopefully you get what you want out of this webinar today, and we'll also be having an upcoming AIOps Power Hour covering ACC-M and L, covering the best practices on this topic, and that's Agent Client Collector if you didn't already know, in our webinar next week, same day of the week as well, same time. And so if you'd like to sign up for that, I'll be posting the link in the chat again later. So before we get started, I just want to give a safe harbor notice for any forward-looking statements that we may make. Any of the statements that we may make in the call or in Q&A are to the best of our knowledge right now, but things are always subject to change, so please do not make any purchasing decisions based off of those specific statements. And as a general housekeeping, we've saved time at the end for Q&A, but please use the Q&A module in the Zoom call itself. Do not put it in the chat. This presentation will also be recorded and put on YouTube following the event. It'll be sent to you via Zoom since you've registered for the session today. And after this event, you'll also be prompted to fill out a short survey, so thank you in advance for your feedback. And without further ado, let me hand it over to Magnus and Lorenz, who will be presenting today.
Yes, thank you, Victoria. Let me just replace the screen share. Give me 1 second. There we go, I hope. No,
You're good.
it did
Never mind.
show it on the screen, I think. Yeah, there we should go. Now it should work.
All good.
Yes, that. Finally, my bad. Fighting with virtual desktops on Mac is not always the easiest thing in the world. But here we should go. So my name is Magnus Nilsson. I've been at ServiceNow for about 5.5 years. My expertise area at ServiceNow is in the ITOM operations area, specifically around AIOps, monitoring, event management, etc. And together with me, I have Lawrence. I'll let you say a couple of words, Lawrence.
Yes, my name is Lawrence Bührer. I'm a colleague of Magnus, based out of Switzerland. I joined ServiceNow a bit more than a year ago. I have a big background in IT operations management and also in DevOps. Thank you.
So without further ado, let's have a quick look at the agenda for today. Throughout the session, we have a couple of poll questions. We'll keep like 30 seconds to give you a little bit of time to answer those. And depending on the outcome of the answers, we might have a quick chat around what we're seeing in the responses. But the general talk track for the next roughly 1.5 hours is we're gonna give you a brief introduction into Agentic AI. This will be more generic as there is so much that is not specifically aligned with AI operations. But it's gonna be in the end moving more and more towards how AI and Agentic AI is going to support the AIOps story going forward. Then Lawrence will do a demo around alert triage and analyze. That's one of the out-of-the-box capabilities we have. Then we'll move into a little bit more of theory, look at what is the actual under the hood components that are building up and allowing us to do the things that we are talking about in this session, like how agents work, how the structure of orchestrators look like, and how these kind of automations can be driven with the help of GenAI and Agentic AI. Then we'll move into the second demo. This is going to be a bit more, or actually quite a lot more under the hood. So think about it as you really opening the engine and looking inside of the gearbox. So we're going to show you how a custom agentic AI workflow could look like. So this is something that I would expect you as a customer start doing quite a lot once you are getting more and more accustomed to using these capabilities we have on our platform. And lastly, we'll round this off with some Q&A. So that leads us to the first poll question. And I think by now you should be seeing that on your side. So we'll give that about 30 seconds to allow you to respond. All right, I think we have enough responses to see kind of how the percentages are dividing between the 4 different possible answers. I think I'm quite surprised to see that the first 2 ones are quite even. I was also a little bit surprised to see that we have 63% not using any AI at all. Well, what do you think, Lawrence? Would this kind of align with what you expect?
Yeah, I mean, it's saying agentic AI. The question is a bit what people understand as agentic AI, right? But I'm also surprised that almost 2 out of 3 person are not using agentic AI at the moment.
Yeah, but that's a good point for today, because we're going to go into these details, and hopefully after this session you will understand way more about what agentic AI can actually help with. So let's dig down into the content. So to begin with, there's from a ServiceNow perspective, there is quite a lot of strategy and a lot of investment and R&D and things that we are putting into GenAI and agentic AI in general. But the key thing is that we are looking to enable AI in every different corner of the business. And in order to do that, we have a strategy that is building on pre-built GenAI models. So these are GenAI models that lives inside of the ServiceNow data centers. So it's not like the ones you can buy through OpenAI or through Grok and others. And we then have Now Assist capabilities. So these are the features and business values that these agentic workflows and agents are able to deliver. And lastly, these 2 first capabilities, they have the ability to drive intelligent workflows, which would be able to interact with a lot of different areas of your business, not necessarily only AIOps, which though will be the main focus for today. My majority of the businesses that we talk to, especially when it's on a more of an executive level, they are highly optimistic of the GenAI and agentic capabilities and how it's potentially going to transform their companies to the better within the next 3, 4, 5 years. And as we all know, when we talk about AI, it's very hard to predict any kind of timeline, because I don't think in my life, over 25 years in IT, I have not ever seen anything developing in the pace that AI is doing it right now. But executives, they are more focused on looking, identifying how to drive efficiency, quality, and being more innovative in an ever more increasing and competitive global market. But there's also some concerns at the same time, especially how do you make sure that you succeed with AI, and how do you avoid it from being poorly implemented and being just something that costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time to maintain. So how do you avoid those risks? That's definitely a concern that comes up around from executive level business persons. At the same time, there's still 79% of them that see their companies being more or less transformed in the next upcoming 2 to 2.5 years. And it's kind of exactly what the ServiceNow is built to do. So our platform is built to focus on supporting the business processes, no matter if that is centered around customer relationship management or if it's around finance or human resources. But the area that we will dig deep further down into today is around AIOps and how we can use AIOps, and especially with agentic AI capabilities to support the business, making sure that the underlying technology stacks and infrastructure and cloud environment, etc., are running in an optimal way, and that we're able to sort out problems as quick as possible, potentially even before they arise. That would definitely be the best. The platform that we have is a foundation to enable transformation with AI features and supporting the adoption journey by adding intelligence to workflows and the processes that supposed to maintain accurate facts, data, etc., in order to drive the outcomes that we expect. But if we take this a little bit from a different angle, what we are hearing repeatedly, and we'll look at data when we talk to more IT-focused VP-level individuals or CXOs, is that it comes down to three main areas that they are looking at. It's very much around driving efficiency. Those would be things like reducing cost, delivering on time, hitting budget, or even meeting strategic goals that the board of directors or similar have defined. Resiliency, of course, is very important as well, especially if you think about it from an angle of how do we restore something that may break? How do we avoid being hit by all of the cyber threats that are out there? How do we build a risk and governance processes around all of the services that we're delivering to the business? And then at the same time, drive experience for end users, for customers, etc. And there's a couple of big themes that we are hearing over and over. It's about how can we help the people on the customer side that is accountable for these services that IT is delivering and making sure should work. So there's definitely an aspiration moving towards the zeros. It's not that we will meet zeros. That's still utopia, I would say, to be perfectly honest. But definitely we're having the compass direction of moving to as few outages as possible, make sure that we are having as few issues as possible, and in the end, maybe even avoid having humans needing to touch infrastructure and technical building blocks. So partnering with ServiceNow in this journey of agentic AI and GenAI is offering a trifecta of benefits. It's supporting agentic capabilities in every corner of your business that will span multiple or pretty much any type of workflow where we interact and integrate. It supports third-party agents, and that's something we will dig a little bit deeper into a bit later. And of course, it allows these agents to have access to real-time and contextual data and information, which leads us to the second point here. Data is important, and I can't underestimate the importance of quality data, especially when it comes to AI. We all know that when we chat with ChatGPT, if we just leave out a little bit of facts or are a little bit too unclear about what we're looking for as a response, we get hallucinations. But if you just add a little bit of context to these questions, we suddenly get much more accurate and to the point of responses. It is the same thing here. We need data. We need data from multiple sources. We have the capability on the ServiceNow platform to orchestrate and glue a lot of different data sources together. We also have workflows on the right-hand side, which once enabled by agentic AI will suddenly become much more dynamic. So it will allow us to solve for things that maybe would take a long time to do otherwise. Because AI will help us make the decision of what to do when, using dynamic orchestrations and so on. At the same time, we are allowing you as a customer full autonomy and full ability to run this on your terms, because we realize that in some cases, you are taking smaller steps to implement the agentic capabilities, while others are going all in on full autonomy with autopiloted agents that are able to do things by themselves in the background, enriching processes and tasks with information that maybe in a couple of cases are not even done if you're asking a human to do it. One of the more important aspects here is the AI control tower, because once we are starting to add a lot of agentic capabilities, it becomes increasingly important to be able to keep control over them and understand what are the agents we have. Do they meet the policies we have as a customer? Do we have regulatory reporting lines that we need to fulfill? And what would that data be then that we need to share with authorities, etc.? So how do we maintain the governance and the risk context around all of these new capabilities that Agentic AI enable us to deliver? So this leads us to a couple of the building blocks and kind of, I would say, more key capabilities that we have on the agentic side of things. So reasoning is one of the features that is there, being able to make decisions, crunch through a lot of large sets of unstructured data, understanding problems, understanding the context, and also building that up based on available information. And the second one is around planning. So we all know that when we ourselves are looking at a larger problem, we need to plan in orders on how to solve them. That's something that AI is quite good at doing too, generating that sequence of different steps that needs to be done in order to come to a solution. And it is something that becomes even harder in dynamic environments. There's a lot of information that are constantly changing. So having AI supporting you there gives a lot of benefits. And that directly translates into the orchestration capabilities. So being able to use this reasoning, using planning to drive additional work steps or workflows or scripts, however you would like to build them, we can now take those from being fully deterministic into becoming driven by agentic AI in either manual, semi-automatic, or fully autonomous modes. All of these agents that we have also have the capability to collaborate. So it's not going to be that I'm telling one agent to do something and then I wait for the response. The fact will be that these agents are actually able to collaborate with one another, with a central authority that actually keeps some kind of governance and control around that this agentic workflow is doing what it should do. So it's not like it can go out and do anything. There's a context, there are limits, there are rules of what this agentic workflow can do, but the agents are able to collaborate, coming up with the response and what to execute in the next steps. And at the same time, there are learning features built into this. So during the time when these agents find facts, we're actually able to take that into maybe knowledge articles, building new type of skills, building new agents, etc. So these are the fundamental capabilities that our agentic features on the platform deliver. And this leads us to how we could approach IT if we think about it from kind of a more agentic enabled maturity curve, or we like to call it autonomous IT operations, where we have on a first level, it's very much reactive, a lot of manual processes, siloed data, And typically phone calls, emails, etc., are being shared amongst people in teams, in various organizations, etc., to solve problems. Moving that to a more responsive level 2, there might still be manual root cause analysis who have not done that throughout their career, doing all of these postmortems, trying to gather intelligence needed, facts, etc., and putting together what is the real root cause of why we had this P1 incident. Still quite challenged because there is a lot of siloed data, and maybe also different point monitoring tools that doesn't have context of what is going on at the moment. Level 3 moves us a little bit more into becoming more intelligent. So maybe at least being able to predict common problems based on patterns that we can see in incidents, in alerts, etc. But definitely being able to be more proactive on alerting, so we can identify when certain high priority issues are occurring, and we're able to start working on resolving and remediating those before users and customers are being impacted. Of course, there's another area around root cause analysis here, which is suddenly becoming more intelligent, because in level 3, we're starting to glue these data sets together, so we can draw conclusion based on what happens in certain areas of this data. And level 4 is then moving us more towards autonomy. So being able to more or less autonomously drive machine management, being able to self-heal when something breaks, maybe potentially even be able to predict certain type of outages, and definitely having an automated feedback loop. And what I mean with that is similar, quite simple things like creating or maintaining updated KB articles. That's something we could use agentic capabilities to do in an autonomous world. And this leads us into where you are, and the question, which is the next poll: where is your organization on the maturity curve? So we'll give it 30 seconds. Yeah, we have 50 people responding up until now. I think that's enough to be statistically relevant, at least. Lawrence, what do you think? I'm not so surprised. What do you think? I'll go ahead. Seems to be some technical issue on Lawrence's side.
Yeah, I was muted, sorry.
Okay.
Half of the people are in level 2, and the other half is separated into level 1 and level 3. So this is more or less what I experience maybe at customer side. I think what's important about this whole maturity curve, even though you consider to be in level 2, that does not mean, and I guess, Magnus, we had discussed this in our preparation calls, it doesn't mean that you can use features which are considered level 4, right? So it's like a maturity curve, and yeah.
No, I agree fully with you. I'm not surprised based on these numbers. But at the same time, different customers have enabled different capabilities. So it might be that certain features are used from level 4, but you're still considering yourself being at level 2 because there's something major missing. And I think if we look at different types of customers, the ones that are more born in the cloud, I would argue, are typically more level 3, level 4. I guess they have different means and different capabilities that can help drive their infrastructure, their operations, their maintenance, etc., from a more programmatic perspective. So it's easier for them to automate things. So I'll close the poll here, and then before handing the conversation over to Lawrence, I'll quickly go through the GenAI capabilities that we have today as of Q3 2025. So there's two areas of agentic capabilities and AI capabilities that we have within AIOps. One of them is called Now Assist skills. So these are essentially different outcomes you can call upon. So a couple of examples are doing analysis of alerts. We all know, especially if we spend a lot of time doing monitoring and handling alerts, etc., that understanding exactly what they mean is quite tough. So having AI being able to add context into one or multiple alerts, adding those alerts into context, adding those information about what they mean, maybe even being able to do investigation to understand things like historical incidents related to this alert. What did we do back then when we resolved them? All the way down to what is called here AIOps Leap, which is a way for us to cluster various types of data. Once we have identified those clusters, we are then looking at how were those clusters of issues resolved, how much time was people spending on resolving them. Then we'll take that to a next step, showcasing ways of resolving them with pre-built process steps based on playbooks. And then in the end, showcase those on a dashboard, which would then be something that kind of VP level individuals would be interested in, because the ultimate goal with Leap is to drive efficiency and close out problems, because we don't want to typically continue firefighting. On the other side, the agentic workflows, we have triage and analyze alerts, which Lawrence will cover in a bit, where we have the ability to instantly understand the underlying services, the issues, etc., getting summarized information based on GenAI, and being able to analyze alerts and their impact. At the same time, also resolving these issues faster, being able to collaborate with third-party agents, like, for example, using New Relic or Dynatrace to capture information that those technical platform knows about, but still gluing that together with analyzing the alert, which we're working on in the ServiceNow AIOps context. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Lawrence, to go through the first demo. This will be around alert triage.
Thank you, Magnus. As Magnus has already mentioned in the agenda, first step or the first demo would be to only show you how an operator would use such an agentic AI workflow, right? So what we are looking at is the triage and analyze alert AI agent. This is an out-of-the-box agent. It is built out of 5 different agents, right? One would handle the alert, one would analyze the alert, one would look at historical data of for this alert, and then one would also have a look at incidents which are created from these alerts. And the last one is just to verify if this is a proper alert that could be analyzed. As Magnus mentioned, right?
Lawrence, sorry to interrupt.
Yes?
Are you sharing?
I think I'm do.
Yes, he is.
Maybe you're stuck to your screen.
Yeah, might be.
You're
All right,
good.
that is working.
Exactly. As Magnus has mentioned in the agenda, I will first only show how an operator would use such an agentic workflow through Now Assist. And in the second demo a bit later, I would go a bit more into how you can build such an AI agent, what it consists of, how you can test it, how you can troubleshoot it. So the first one is really just a simple one, right? I have here an alert. I would open the Now Assist console. I would create a new chat, right? And then I would tell that I would like to triage and analyze the alert, right? What Now Assist is now doing, it is looking if there's an agentic workflow which meets my input, right? And I see, here's what I can do next, triage and analyze alert. So I click on it. Let me stick it to the screen here that we have a bit better visibility. And now we see all the steps that the agentic workflow is now executing, right? So he tells me I'm looking into the particular alert I have opened. Now it is validating if this is a proper alert. So this could be because there's not enough text in the alert, in the description or so. And now the next step you see here, it tells me what it will try to do, right? First, acknowledge and assign the alert. So this means you see currently no one is assigned to the alert. So the first step will be to assign the alert to me. And the assignment is basically working. It is checking which groups or teams I am part of. And then it asks me which team I would like to have the ticket assigned to, besides assigning the ticket directly to me. So I tell it, assign it to the application support. You see here on the left side, it's already assigned to that team. So this basically should not change. So you see the ticket is now acknowledged and I am assigned to the ticket. So the first step was successful and now it will do further analysis of the alert, right? So maybe one thing that I got confused in preparing all that stuff, sometimes the scrolling you're not at the bottom and then the auto scrolling is somehow turned off. So always be sure to have it properly scrolled to the bottom, because then you really can see the updates live. So we see here the alert is of a severity critical. It's still opened. The duration was 4 days, right? Now it will do further steps. It will analyze the alert. So it will create a summary. And maybe some of you already have experience with the alert summarization. So here we see that there seems to be a problem on the VM, right? And then we see a deep dive analysis. Now what it does, it adds all the stuff that it is detecting, it adds it to the work notes here, right? So it's important that this stuff that you see here in the chat on the right side is not lost, right? So it will add it here. Now it's trying to analyze the past occurrences, right? And it tells me, unfortunately, there was not enough historical data for this. Still, it tries to analyze further incidents, right? So we see here an incident was assigned to that particular, or no, there was no incident assigned to that one, right? Still, it is looking if there are any incidents which could somehow match this particular alert.
Yeah, I think Lawrence, what's worthwhile to mention here is that this particular demonstration is based on a demo environment. The next one we will go in depth into the custom one is based on a live environment. So everything might not be as smooth. There might be some things that are older in age than what you would typically see in a live production environment, but bear with us.
Yes, so this is interesting, right? There is no incident currently assigned to the ticket. Still, it found that in June 25, there was a similar alert where we had incidents. So it is able to search for the history, right? So back then we had a critical alert also detected for this particular Proxmox Kubernetes node or cluster. And we see here impact, there were 29 services were impacted by this problem. So as mentioned, right, So all the information is persisted here in the alert. So even though when the AI agent would run in the background, all this stuff is added here, and you can see the historical data, right? So we see here calling write work node to alert. So all that stuff is now added. And I think that's about the demo we currently have, right? So what's important, don't want to go in all the detail in all to the boxes, but what's really important is that multiple processes are impacted, right? We see that event management, we see incident management, configuration management. So all the capabilities in the green boxes, you see that they cover separate topics, right? We see also that the data, right? We have CMDB data, we have alert data, and we have incident data. So what's really important here is that there are no silos here for these AI agents, right? So it can cover different processes without someone or without that someone is basically working in a silo, right? So this is really, and I had discussed it with Magnus, this is some kind of a transformational process because these silos don't really exist for AI agents.
Yeah, at the same time, Lawrence, I think it's worthwhile to mention is that, of course, there can be security rules and permissions set up so that certain agents don't have full access to everything. That's a really important capability of the ServiceNow platform. So it's not like AI agents are suddenly just moving under the radar and able to do anything without having proper permissions. They need to adhere to permission structures like everything else. But as you said, the transformative aspect here is that the agents are able to look into multiple different processes that are typically operated and maintained by different silo organization in a company.
With that, I would hand back to you, Magnus.
Yeah, give me a second to share my screen. So as established, key areas to succeed with GenAI and Agentic is to find the use cases and also identifying the value that they deliver. But also the necessities to understand the different steps in those processes that needs to be executed to solve for those use cases, or even the actions that needs to be taken. And lastly, there are all these conversations around data that is needed in order to drive these agentic capabilities. And as with everything else, especially it holds true in AI, the outcome are only going to be as good as the data and the quality of that data. So keeping up-to-date, real-time information, accurate data is I think the key thing that will allow you to drive for good quality outputs with as little hallucination as possible. And there's one other thing I think worthwhile to mention here, because one of the main thing that agentic AIs is changing that might be a little bit hard to wrap around your heads, and it's quite confusing for me still as well. Is definitely if you compare it to the typical way of doing automation, where you have all of these deterministic rules. There's if this, then but. You need to have to look up tables, and you have decisions that need to be taken, and there are only certain valid directions that can be taken based on those decisions. While agentic AIs kind of throw this all up in the air. Because it will have the ability, coming back to those essential capabilities I mentioned earlier, it has capabilities to resonate around how do I come to the outcome. It do have a little bit of prompting, some finesse, there's some logic added to those prompts, but essentially it has a way to resonate based on input context, identify data, the facts, and then drive towards the outcomes expected by the agents to deliver. In the end, these two ways of doing automation will be combined. It's not like a deterministic approach will be replaced. There's a lot of different areas where this could still be used, especially when it comes to building tools for agents or building certain types of automations for processes or infrastructure, etc. So when we enable these capabilities on the ServiceNow platform, there is a bunch of additional application that you suddenly get access to. On the data side, you will have data, a workflow data fabric that can integrate to external data sources in multiple different ways. You have knowledge graph capabilities on the ServiceNow platform, which allows you to start add additional context for these agents. It might be that you have CRM data and you have HR data, information that is typically not part of a CMDB or the CMDM model. With knowledge graph, you're able to add those into the context of what your AIOps agents are able to work on. And of course, CMDB and CSDM is a fundamental data source for the agentic AI capabilities in AIOps. On the AI side, we have Now Assist, which is the main interaction point. We have a development application called AI Agent Studio. This is where you develop your different agents. You are able to test them. You are able to see historical executions. You're able to follow how they resonate, to do debugging, etc. And there is AI Control Tower, which wraps governance and risk management around all of these agents and workflows and tools that you are building. They're supposed to be more or less autonomous in its nature. And of course, in the end, the workflows that we're supporting is not only in IT and the AIOps use cases. It's within security, in risk, it's within HR, and so on. And as I alluded towards earlier, we have a set of pre-built ServiceNow large language models, which we are making sure that those are executed and run only inside of our data center. No information is shared outside of our data centers or between customers in any way. We also have full flexibility to allow you as a developer or user of the ServiceNow platform to use third-party large language models or even use your own large language models that you have pre-trained for certain specific areas that only you and your company know about. We can then incorporate those into the agent orchestrator, which is the key entry point for any of these agentic workflows, which then interact with data, workflows, and a multitude of agents. So this leads us into how does all of this work under the hood? So the first thing that happens, so think about it, when Lawrence, he manually kicked off this triage and alert agentic workflow, there is a trigger that kicks these off. This trigger can be configured differently, so you can set up certain rules that need to be fulfilled, and the agent can run fully autonomously. Or you might say that it needs to be triggered from Now Assist. So there's a lot of flexibility around there, but it also contains at the agentic workflow point level, you will have the initial prompt and description of what is this agentic workflow doing, why have you built it, and also what kind of response it's supposed to deliver in the end. The next level here is the agentic workflow orchestrator. So this is essentially an AI agent that does a lot more reasoning than a traditional agent would do. It has planning capabilities. It's then able to call upon other agents to do certain kind of work. One of the key configurations that is done in the orchestrator agent is that you tell it in what order to do things. That is one way. You can actually use whatever natural language you want, but if you at least give it some steps or order of those steps to execute, it is able to then figure out how to resolve those based on the agent capabilities it has available to it. It could be like looking up metrics in the ServiceNow metric base. It could be looking up historical incidents, or maybe based on when it's identified the business context of a technical problem. Maybe it could also look at what is the customers being impacted by this. So there's a lot of flexibility to how this is built. So as I said, the agentic orchestrator then has a plethora of AI agents to its disposal, which it can use. Has specific integrations into like HR, into IT, into CRM, etc. And each of these individual agents, they themselves have access to tools. So this is where the level between non-deterministic and deterministic comes together. So part of these tools could be workflows, it could be scripts, it could be things you built in Flow Designer, it could be external API calls. So there's a lot of different flexibility you have there. Or these agents could be calling one of our out-of-the-box skills, like the summary of alerts or analysis of alerts. Or they talk to external agents that is not even running in the side of the ServiceNow platform, based on, for example, the MCP protocol, or in the longer run, maybe even agent protocol. And if you think a little bit into the future, just something that was very recently released, Google announced a couple of days ago the new protocol called AP2, which is essentially a way for agents to pay for things. So think about what that might enable in the future. So one of the key outcomes that comes from the Agent Studio on our platform is that all of these different building blocks, tools, agents, orchestrators, workflows, etc., that we are building, they can be reused. And that's how you should think about them. It's the same as in software development. You are building something that is of value for others. You can reuse those for other agentic workflows that someone else is developing. And with that, before I hand it over to Lawrence to do the last demo, I'll have a last poll question. So Victoria, if you could please bring this up. I would say, based on what I'm seeing here, these numbers do not surprise me. Agentic AI is still considered by a lot of people bleeding edge, even though it's been available for commercial uses by private citizens and so on for quite some time already. But that almost 20% is using it, but still considering themselves as a newbie. Adding another 10%, so we're up to almost 31, one third that is already using these kind of capabilities. That makes me happy to see. For you that are not using these capabilities, please reach out to us. We are here to help you on how to get started on the agentic AI journey.
Yeah, maybe Marcus, just to add, so it resonates a bit about the first one, right? If people use really agentic AI at all, right? And obviously, if you want to use agentic AI in ServiceNow, the AI Agent Studio should be something familiar to you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
So with that, let's dig into a more custom agentic workflow. I'll hand it over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you. So the next demo, this will be a more custom workflow, and custom in the sense that the colleagues of me, especially you can see here at the bottom right, Carlis Peterson is one of our colleagues in Americas. They took the standard triage and analyze alert workflow and enhanced it with a few features, right? So it's again a workflow that will analyze and assign a specific alert to to the operator, but there's some additional features which we will see in the demo, right? So we call it the autonomous triage and analyze alerts agentic workflow. So again, the first step is it will do the alert assignment. We will see that in the demo. The next step, it will do alert analysis. That was also, it's the same as we had it in the out-of-the-box one. Then the next one, this is something that is right, that where Carlis has put a lot of effort into it, display CI metrics. So you guys might know that we can have also metrics in ServiceNow for CIs, and this is what it will be adding to the particular alert, right, in a graphical way. The next one is alert significance. So based on historical data, it will check if this is like a regular alert, which has no impact, or if it's really something that people should take care of, or maybe something that you could ignore within a specific rule. Yes. And then the last one, incident correlation, right? And what's important, it's everything in one system, right? So you have one workflow that basically does the whole flow. So let's go into the demo. So this is basically the alert that I'm trying to analyze. And now I won't do it with the Now Assist query, but I will do it in the AI Agent Studio. The AI Agent Studio is basically the place where you develop your agentic use cases. So a lot of stuff is similar to other agentic AI solutions, right? So you have a name, obviously, you have a workflow description, and then what's really important, you have the steps that your agentic workflow consists of. Now, these steps, Magnus has mentioned, right? You can define it that it's really done in one order, or you can let basically the agentic AI decide which agent should be run at which time. Now, in our use case, and we saw it with the flow, right? It makes sense that we obviously have everything in an order. That's why we have here a strict step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approach, right? What is really important is the AI agents, right? So an agentic workflow does not work without agents. These agents need to be described in a way that the orchestrator knows which agent should fulfill which step, right? So it's important to have descriptions right, to have the steps properly, and also when we go in one of these agents, right? So let's go into the alert verification AI agent. You see again, we see an agent description, right? This is then basically all these informations are used for the orchestrator to somehow decide which agent should be used at which time, right? In a approach where you have really a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's pretty obvious, right? But if you have like a non-deterministic, as Magnus was showing, a workflow, all these informations need to be there in order that the orchestrator really knows what agent to use for which particular questions, for example. Right. So again, we have a description. What's also important is we can define what roles you need to have in order to be able to execute this particular agent, and also the dynamic user part, right? So you can define in this case, obviously, it's the user that is logged in and that uses the agent. But if you have, for example, a workflow which is triggered autonomously in the background, you can define that it should run as a particular user, right? Then what is also really important is every agent needs to have tools in place that it really can do something, right? And if you have a look here, so I created an own one that I can show you what tools you can create. So there are a lot of different tools, right? So you have a simple record operation, right? This could be that you have a particular table where you want to get data from. Then scripts, this is something a lot of ServiceNow developers obviously know, right? You can create scripts which give you access to a particular set of data, right? As Magnus has mentioned before, MCP, right? You can get data from other agentic AI solutions, or you could also have like a web search where the agent would use this tool to search for particular information in the internet. Right. Then we also have the next step of the agentic workflow, right, is you can define triggers. So here, our colleagues have defined 4 different triggers, right? So whenever an alert meets this criteria, the autonomous triage and analyze alerts agentic workflow is automatically run, right? So what's important, you don't need triggers if you only want to use it manually. So an operator would either use the analysis panel or have a button created for that particular workflow, then you don't need triggers at all, right? And the last one, analysis panel. So here you would display AI agent output in the analysis panel, right? So this is something where you can use this for. Now this is more or less the theory behind it, right? So the next step would be the testing. Obviously, you need a way to test your AI agents, right? And ServiceNow has this functionality also embedded in the AI Agent Studio. What you need to do is you need to select a particular workflow that you need to do or want to execute, right? You can also execute AI agents separately, right? If you're under the development stage and want to test a specific AI agent, you can also do that. But in our case, we would test the whole autonomous workflow. So let's have a look. We take this particular alert. What we can do is we can define it. We can define the version, right? So we can compare different versions. So if someone is about to develop a new version, they can compare different outputs, right? And now what we would do is we would start the test for this particular alert. Maybe before starting it, there's also the possibility to have evaluation runs, right? So here what you do is you define a certain input set, and then you can basically run it and see what the result would be. This is especially in the phase where you develop a new version and you want to do some kind of a regression testing. This is something that you could use for that, right? But now let's start the autonomous agent, right? So here we see what is actually happening during the workflow, right? So in the middle, we see the orchestrator. Now the orchestrator would start with the first step, right? We see on the right side, alert verification AI agent. So this is the first one in the description, right? So this was step 1. We can really dive very deep into what was the action, what was the reasoning, which tool was used, why was it used, what was the input, what went wrong, right? So I hope, yeah. So this is now really a live environment. The alert description must be more than 5 words. So, right. So we see that the alert verification failed. So maybe let's have a look at another one. So let's take this alert.
Yeah, the beauty of running live demos, it's always something that may go wrong.
So we see now that the alert validation was correct, right? And now we see that these are the steps that it will try to do, right? Now we have taken the assign alert from the out of the box triage and analyze alert agentic workflow. So the first thing will then be to assign the alert to me, right? So we see that the verification which failed before due to a too short description now completed successfully, and now it is going to the next steps, right? So this is now the assign given alert to given group. So here we see that it was signed to me, right? And the conditional script writer group, that's the group I am part of on this instance. So it was assigned to that particular group, right?
And Lawrence, if I may add here, so once we're looking
Sure.
at how this is executing and coming to the expected outcomes in the end, one thing you could play around with is adding additional customizations to the assignment. You have the ability to do lookups of maybe what was the team that typically fixed this, maybe who was the person in that team that fixed more complex or more important alerts, and have the AI agent to actually assign it to the person that have the highest likelihood of being able to fix the problem. So that's definitely some other customizations that could be added here.
Yeah. And as mentioned, right, so we have triggers here for this particular agentic workflow. So theoretically, you could run it for every alert, and then when the operator really sees an alert, it's either already closed because it was not significant, or it has additional data with metrics from various CIs or so part in the added to the alert, and then he can triage the alert even faster, right? Now we see similar output as we had before with the out-of-the-box run, right? It's a critical alert, the current status is closed, and the duration was 3 hours. Now we see it does a more in-depth alert analysis. So we would expect, as it's a similar use case, we would also expect a summary, right? So container memory usage alert analysis. What's important also here, it will add it to the work notes. We will stay here on this screen in order to see the whole story being finished, right? I will close here the completed ones, right? One thing which also was mentioned by Magnus, right? You can have autonomous or supervised steps, basically. Autonomous means that it just simply runs through. Supervised means that it asks you in the analysis chat if it should do the next step or not, right? So this is also very handy in order to have a little bit of control what the AI agent does in the background, right?
Yeah, I would say it's not only handy, it's really good to be able to have a human in the loop. In fact, there are regulations in some countries which stipulate that for certain decisions, there needs to be a human that make that decision. So even though the agent would technically be able to make the decision fully autonomously, a human needs to actually click yes or no, or give it the direction of how to continue. You also see and probably have wondered why it takes a little bit of time to execute all of this. One of those reasons are that we are still running in sub-production environments, so we definitely don't have as much horsepower available for our LLMs and the agents to process things very fast. But there's also a lot of things that happens behind the scenes, and information and data that these agents are collecting and crunching before showing it up.
Yeah, especially the metrics step. It does collect all the metrics and then creates nice charts out of it, right?
And the way you should think about this is these agentic workflows, they are doing work that we would typically do manually. So if we should think about it in the context of how much time are we spending to capture certain kind of information, doing copy paste from systems, finding metrics and values, doing calculations, maybe talking to other people in teams or different organizations in IT and the business, etc. Doing a reporting to people that is caring about how fast and quick we are actually remediating certain problems.
Yeah, exactly. So now we saw that the CMDB get sysid task was done, right? So it returned the CI sysid, and then you see here all the metrics that were displayed, right? So this is really something which you would need to do together in several different places, and now it's really added to the work notes of the alert, right? And this is basically that was Carly's baby, let's say it like this, to create such charts, right?
Interesting fact here is that nowhere are we actually telling on exactly what metrics to capture. It will figure that out on the fly based on the alert context input. So it will resonate its way toward what is possibly important metrics to look at in this particular alert context.
Yes, and now the next step, right? You see, it also does an analysis of these metrics, right? And then the next step would be it would analyze the history of these alerts, right? So this is really, as mentioned, right? So you can test separate agents separately, right, during the development phase. So you could basically test the metric-based CI query if you add a specific sysid of a CI and then just execute the metric-based agent, right? And then you would get these charts, right? So it's really the orchestrator who knows from the steps that we have defined in the workflow which agent it needs to execute at what time, and then out of this it can generate this complete workflow, right? So the alert history analyzing tool was successful, and now we again have that there was not a lot of historical data, but what it would show is that in the past there were similar errors which were not significant, right? So, but yeah, unfortunately for this use case, for this particular alert, we didn't have this enough history in the background, right?
Yeah, so all of the things that Lawrence just went through, these are things that happens behind the scenes of the Now Assist pane when you give it tasks to execute. So this is what's under the hood. It shows how the different agents are operating, what information they're crunching, what decisions they are making, and also how the different responses are being made based on how the initial prompt were set up.
So maybe as mentioned before, right? So in addition to the three data boxes that we saw in the first demo, right, we additionally have the metrics part, right? So metrics also are being incorporated into all these capabilities, right? Especially now for the visualization. Maybe let's also have a look at the visualization, right? So here in the alert nodes, this is something that is then added to the work nodes, right? So when an operator has a look at this particular container memory usage alert, he already sees all the important metrics based on the CI that was assigned to that particular arrow, right?
Yeah, and then one additional area of customization for an agentic workflow like this, it comes back a little bit to how your internal processes look like. Like, do you work directly on alerts? So essentially, is the work notes for an alert important or not, or something that you're using on a daily basis and keeping updated, or is everything going into an incident? So all of the customizability that exists here, we can quite easily change these agentic workflows to put these metrics and things into an incident instead. So that comes back up to how you on the customer side are working in triaging alerts, how you're handling incident management, and who is working on what. So it's easy to customize these agentic workflows and tailor them to how you want them to work based on how your internal processes look like.
And maybe the last slide before we have, we'll cover all the questions. This is really important, right? AI is only as powerful as the data have on your system, right?
Yeah, and with our platform, we give full flexibility to use platform local data, knowledge graph or graph-based data sets, being able to do zero copy integration into external data sources with data fabric, or even having multiple or various agents do their own lookups and interacting with third-party tools like, yeah, maybe Dynatrace, New Relic, and others. There are more to come. As a user, you can quite easily developing some of these yourself. Look at what we have built, use those as a template, tweak them a little bit, and play around and see what comes out of it based on the eval capabilities and testing capabilities that we have in our AI studio. It is quite easy to test things out and make sure that they meet the expected outcomes you're looking for. But really, to reiterate, data as the main source of fuel that AI is using to create accurate and highly useful outputs. I would like to thank everyone for attending this session. And as we said earlier, feel free to reach out to your ServiceNow representatives if you want and have any further inquiries around AIOps in the context of agentic capabilities in AI. Thank you very much for attending.